Severe avoidants often wrestle with a deep sense of shame, and they often tell themselves that they are bad people, and they feel quite unlovable at their core. This goes back to childhood when the avoidant was emotionally neglected by their parents or caretakers. They weren't shown the love, they weren't shown the nurturing in the way that a child needs. And when a child doesn't receive love and when they're emotionally neglected, children tend to personalize it. They think it's something wrong with them. And the avoidant, they carry this feeling until they're an adult, that they are unlovable. And because of this feeling, they have a very low self-esteem. They're very insecure people. And they often seek external validation in unhealthy ways. But they also fear emotional intimacy because from their experience, emotional closeness leads to abandonment. This fear, this self-absorption that comes with insecurity can lead the avoidant to do very maladaptive defensive behaviors and seek that dopamine rush to feel better about themselves in very unhealthy ways. This is why in relationships, they can push away from partners, they can discard a partner abruptly, they can gaslight, they can cheat, stonewall, monkey branch, which is serial dating. A lot of very unhealthy, toxic behaviors. And the avoidant does this for a couple main different reasons. One, they have a very low self-esteem, and the dopamine rush that comes with a new relationship or an affair, it'll make them feel better about themselves in the moment. But also, these can be tactics to keep emotional distance from their partner, but ultimately, it really hurts and devastates the person that they do this behavior to. And because they do hurtful behaviors, the avoidant will confirm to themselves that they are, in fact, a bad person. See, look, I hurt this person. I'm a bad person. And then they will feel worse about themselves. But now that they're feeling worse about themselves, they need to find a way to feel better about themselves. Processing the emotions is too painful. They avoid that. They try their best to suppress it. And they try their best to avoid accountability because that sense of shame is too deep and too painful. So they find ways to distract themselves and give themselves that dopamine rush, like having another affair, jumping into a new relationship and then discarding that person, and so on and so on. And each time they do this unhealthy behavior, they once again confirm to themselves that they are a bad person. And then they feel worse about themselves and go right back to that maladaptive behavior all over again. It becomes a cycle. The avoidant feels bad, they do something bad. It confirms that they're bad, and then they do something bad. They can get caught in this loop. And due to the very nature of avoiding, not self-reflecting, suppressing emotions, looking for ways to suppress the actual accountability, not self-reflect, looking for the dopamine rush, and the dopamine will help numb pain and avoid emotions. All these behaviors help contribute to the toxic cycle, because until the avoidant is actually willing to take a step back, truly self-reflect, which means also taking accountability, taking ownership of their behaviors, and actually committing to change and committing to healing, which should include therapy with a licensed psychotherapist, this cycle of shame can continue on and on and on and on if the avoidant is not doing the work. This cycle can go their entire lives. There are many cases of avoidants in their 60s and 70s and even older still doing the same behaviors. Jumping from one relationship to another, cheating on a partner, discarding partners, ghosting, all of it. Because in order to grow emotionally, one has to be willing to self-reflect. And self-reflection is far too painful for someone caught in the shame cycle, so they choose not to. Now, they could choose to, and there are many cases where avoidants finally hit their breaking point where they choose to self-reflect and do the work. However, many do not, and they keep the cycle of shame and toxic behaviors going for their entire lives because the work to fix this, the work to heal, is more painful than they're willing to do.